order and ask that everyone make sure that their cell phones are turned off for the duration of this meeting. I'd like to ask the acting clerk to provide a report concerning matters discussed during the earlier closed session. Alison.
Thank you. There was one item on the closed agenda this evening, and on that item, Council received an update from the CAO regarding his 2020 performance goals and measurements, as well for those watching live or at a later point in time. All members of Council are present electronically. We have 6 of them, and we have them there in the room. As well, we have 2 declarations of pecuniary interests handed in for this meeting. Councillor Carlucci has declared pecuniary interest on agenda item 14A, as his stepdaughter and brother are on the fire team, and Councillor McKay has declared pecuniary interest with agenda item 18A due to an ongoing business relationship with the Kenora District Services Board.
All right, thank you. We have no delegations this evening, no presentations. We have 1 public notice, and I'll ask Alison to review.
Okay. Again, I'll review this notice that I've given a few times that pertains to the upcoming traffic and parking changes around St. Joseph's School. Effective September 1st, a maximum speed school zone will be in effect from Colonization Avenue to 97.5 meters west of the west leg of Park Crescent, with reduced speed limit of 40 kilometers per hour. Restrictions will be in place from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday to Friday from September 1st to June 30th of each year when the signals are flashing. Also effective September 1st and during school times, the current no parking area on the east side of Evergreen Place from Parkdale Road to 95 meters north of Parkdale Road becomes a no stopping area, and the current school bus loading zone on the west side of Evergreen Place becomes a no parking area. Additionally, a no stopping area will be created on the north side of Parkdale Road from the intersection of Evergreen Place to 35 meters east of Evergreen Place, and vehicles traveling southbound on Evergreen Place will be prohibited from turning left onto Parkdale Road.
Okay, thank you. We're now at consent agenda part 1 general, and I'd like to ask the acting clerk again to conduct this section of the agenda.
Okay, I will review the items included on consent agenda part 1, and when I'm done, I'll ask if there are any that council would like to speak to or sever for a separate vote. Under adopt and receive minutes, we have 2 sets of minutes for adoption. They're the minutes of the June 8th Committee of the Whole meeting and the June 22nd Council meeting. Under motions arising from previous Council and Committee of the Whole meetings, we have a resolution supporting the City of Brantford's resolution to declare March 17th as Essential Workers' Day. Do any members of Council wish to speak to any of these items or to have them severed for a separate vote? So can I have someone move and second the motion for consent agenda part 1? Councillor Martin McKinnon and Councillor Bush. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Martin McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Bush, that Council will hereby consider the following items of the consent agenda part 1, general, under date of July 27, 2020, as read and adopted, 10A, B, and 11A.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Carried. Thank you. We're now at consent agenda part 2, bylaws, and I'd like to ask the acting clerk to conduct this section of the agenda.
Okay. At the request of the Dryden Police Service, we're going to defer bylaw 4754-2020 to the August meeting of Council. So that means we have 2 bylaws under consent agenda part 2 this evening. And again, I'll review them and then ask if there are any that members of Council would like to speak to or sever for a separate vote. And these bylaws come out of staff reports that were presented at the June Committee of the Whole meeting. So we have bylaw 4752-2020, a bylaw to amend the city's policy and procedure manual by deleting and replacing the volunteer firefighter remuneration policy. And we have bylaw 4753-2020, which is a bylaw to amend Schedule Q, the cemetery price list of Chapter 72 of the city's municipal code. Do any members of council wish to speak to any of these items or have them severed for a separate vote? Seeing nothing, I will ask for somebody to move and second the consent agenda to motion. Councillor Carlucci, Councillor Shane McKinnon. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Carlucci, seconded by Councillor Shane McKinnon. The council consider Section 14 of the consent agenda, Part 2 bylaws under the date of June 27, 2020, which includes the following bylaws as read a first, second, and third time. Bylaw 4752-2020 and Bylaw 4753-2020.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Carried. Okay, we're now back to the regular agenda, which is out of consent, and each item on the regular agenda will be presented individually to council. Okay, I would like to call upon Dr. Lansdale Roll to present his report. Is he here?
Doctor, that's something new.
Yes. Congratulations.
Good evening, everyone. So the recommendation out of my staff report is that council receives the second quarter financial report for information purposes only. A little bit of highlights is that our revenues were under budget or under the expected levels as of June 30th, 2020. There's two areas that are primarily influencing this negative variance. The first is related to the COVID pandemic and our facility closures. This shouldn't be unexpected based on the financial update that I have provided council earlier. The other item that's influencing revenues is we had a budget for some expected land sales and they have not come to fruition to date. They may not come to fruition in 2020, but we wanted to ensure that we were planning some marketable properties so that if it did happen, we weren't having a variance and explaining what went on. I'd rather budget for them and explain that they haven't happened than not budget for them and then have to explain what happened. Anyway, for those items, because any land sale proceeds we allocate to the land sale reserve, that negative variance is offset by a positive variance on the expense side. Moving on to the expenses, we are quite significantly positive on the expense side. As of Q2, there are some COVID-related savings due to some expense mitigation measures that the city has taken. We also, the largest variance is in salary and benefits, and that's related to some vacant positions we have. So these have been positions that have been vacant for the whole year, so both quarters. There's a position in Dryden Fire Service. There's the lead hand position at the arena. We have our asset management / facilities supervisor coordinator position vacant, and a POA vacancy. There are some Dryden Police Services vacancies that are built into that positive variance. Some of those have been filled, and active recruitment is ongoing for the remaining vacant positions. Then the remaining outside of that land sale reserve, so the transfer to reserves being positive related to that revenue I just mentioned, the remaining big ticket items and materials and contracted service really relate to seasonal activity in public works. So this would be our the line painting, the ditch maintenance, things of that nature that as of this point in time, the end of July, a lot of this activity has taken place, but those invoices and payments weren't made prior to June 30th. So this is reflective, the data that is presented is reflective of June 30th data only. So those kind of things are happening or have already happened and won't result in any year-end variance. But with those vacancies, we do anticipate to have a slight operating surplus at year-end, assuming everything else goes to plan for the balance of the year. With regards to our debt servicing, we are on target to service our debt as budgeted. And then with regards to capital, we do anticipate spending the city funds that have been allocated to capital in 2020. There are some projects that are having some savings or are going to be over budget, but overall, we're going to be managing the capital plan fairly well. There are a couple projects that aren't going to happen this year, or at least one of them is not going to happen, and that's the airport wet dry material spreader. That's a ACAP funded project that's going to be pushed into 2021. At the rec center, we still haven't heard whether our ISIP application was successful or not, but we're at a point in time this year that even if we were fortunate enough to have that application or be successful in that application, there would be minimal, if any, expenditures done this year. And then, yeah, I've noted some of the other projects that we're having some variances, but again, like I said, they're not going to impact the capital plan overall. So those are the highlights. I don't know if council has any questions. I'll take those now.
Well, Steve, I was just wondering, are you viewing the lower land sales to, I know you're kind of hedging your bets there, but just practically speaking, are you viewing the lower land sales to be simply a delay with revenues bouncing back in the next quarter or so, or is it next year, or are you thinking that they're lost for the year? And I'm keeping in mind the impact on reserve transfers.
Yeah, I think that, I don't want to say that they won't happen this year. They could be pushed into next year. They could be some of these items, like it's the old Parks building. There's some land in the Norwell Park development area. There's discussions that are ongoing right now, and some interest in certain properties within the city. So I don't want to say that they're not going to happen, but the timeline, and I don't know if COVID has impacted individuals' activities or corporate activities. So like I said, there's certain properties that we budgeted for that are listed for sale, that are being advertised or marketed, and we wanted to capture those in the budget process.
Okay, and then just another question: those 7 items that you've got, the following projects that won't take place in 2020. So there's no impact to the 2020 capital plan, but they will impact our reserve levels, right? Like even the deferment of capital lease spending on the pumper, it'll have to eventually be paid. So I'm just wondering how much less money will we have in light of like the areas of adjustment to put into reserves.
Yeah, sorry, there's only 2 that we anticipate not actually happening. And then the other 7 are ones that are having some sort of a variance, whether it's positive or negative. But overall, the anticipated draw from reserves are not going to be materially impacted because, for example, the pumper, that due to delays in getting it and our capital lease payments starting, right. We have some savings this year, but then there's some other items like the bunker gear or the hoses. Those are going to be slightly over, but they're all being funded by that reserve. So it's things seem to be washing.
Okay, that's it for me. Thanks. Anyone else? Councillor Bush?
Yes, no particular questions. I think the way you've laid this out, Stephen, is very good, very clear. And it's just great to see a quarterly financial report to council that kind of gives a high-level overview of where we're at and on the bigger issues, and gives me a lot of confidence going forward with respect to how you and the other managers are really managing the whole operation. And I know there's a lot of uncertainty still in front of us with COVID, but going into the second half of the year, it looks like we do have some contingencies available to deal with some of those uncertainties, whatever they might be. So that's a lot better position to be in than being in the hole and still having those uncertainties in front of us. At least we have some ability to manage it going forward. So just appreciate your work and the work of your managers in putting this together for us and giving us a good overview of where we stand at halftime in 2020.
All right, thank you. Councillor Shane McKinnon.
Thank you for your report, Mr. Treasurer. And I note that today there was an announcement made at the provincial level about funding for municipalities. Is there any impact on our municipality springing from that?
I don't know. And actually, there was when the federal and provincial agreement came out, the only item in that release that actually was specific related to transit. Today's announcement, again, was fairly generic. The fact, though, that the province is going to be working with AMO, who facilitates the federal gas tax payments, leads me to believe, but again, this is an assumption, is that may be a mechanism that the municipality receives some sort of financial support through that program. But right now, we don't have any detailed communications. I anticipate that we will be getting something, but if it's transit related with our modest transit program that we have, it would not be substantial, that would be for sure.
Okay, I look forward to that. Thank you.
Yeah, it'll be in the next 10 days or so, I think, right, Steve, that they'll be coming out with details.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when that program, or what's the program? It's return, anyway, the federal and provincial agreement. There's a significant amount of money. So when an announcement came out, it gets me a little bit excited, but I'm trying to reserve my excitement because, like I said, if it's population-based or if it's some other formula, we might not be getting very much. But I'm still hopeful, and how that impacts our 2020 operations is to be determined. I think what's going to happen is when those details come out, we'll probably have to make a decision on a course of action after that.
Right, anyone else? Questions for Stephen? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So I'd like to call upon Mr. Belanger to present his report.
Through the chair, good evening, Mayor and Council. In front of you this evening, you have information report, a little bit of a recommendation pertaining to the Dryden Pool and Fitness Center. As we all know, we shut down in mid-March of 2020, this spring, and essentially we've been down since that point. In June, there was an announcement from the province which allowed a partial reopening of pools. At the time, upon reviewing the information, some of the restrictions, we decided to pass on that opportunity, just knowing, well, a little bit about the financial climate and then the fears that were circulating around the community and how we would have operated through that. More recently, on I believe it was July 13th, the province released a second round of orders which allowed for an opening of gyms. So this created certainly a new opportunity for us to revisit our plans, and that opportunity to reopen. With that, we've received numerous calls. We received a lot of calls after the pool was open, some regarding questioning, are we open and when will we? We also got some calls regarding memberships from individuals who didn't feel quite as safe returning to the pool and wondering what that would mean to their memberships if we did open and they weren't feeling safe. So we had a little bit of information on both ends, from those who are excited to get back, those who didn't feel quite comfortable returning as of yet. Of course, when we look at our pool, well, our facility in general, in our community, we do have a senior population, and I would say that's probably around the 50% mark when we look at either our pools or our gyms, more heavily so on the pool side. So throughout this opportunity, we've been able to develop, and follow the industry leaders across, from arenas to pools to gyms to fitness centers, and see what everyone's doing. And it's allowed us to basically put together a little bit of a plan that ensures that we feel safe in protecting our staff and protecting our patrons if we were to reopen. So we would be looking at certainly a reduced program schedule, whichever option we were to take. And that would strictly be to try to minimize some of the losses that we've had. Of course, we had some layoffs over at the pool and the fitness center upon shutdown or shortly after shutdown, and that certainly helped in reducing the impacts of COVID-19 on our department and our operations over there. A lot of municipalities did not take that route, and they were really excited to jump back in and open things up because they had that staff there at all times, and they were looking for that opportunity to start returning some revenues from there. We're in a little bit of a different situation, but regardless, I've attached the financials, a little bit of a financial information for you here that speaks to our present costs with our layoffs. And this is including this is for were affected. Below that, you have staff or monthly staffing costs associated with opening the gym only, and then finally you have another cost that speaks to opening the gym. These relate to staffing costs, including cleaning and including sanitation, but they do not include all of our utility costs. That being said, we are still absorbing quite a few utility costs, maybe a little bit more than we had originally expected, but our solar system forces us to keep water in the pool, otherwise we'd be wasting water to keep that system basically wet or from bursting. And we couldn't very well have water in the pool without circulating it, and again, air quality in the pool. So we have had certain items operating in there which have resulted in utilities, but to a lesser extent. So again, in front of you, you have those costs associated with it, and along with an opening. If we were to look at any opening or any combination of opening, staff are recommending we operate on a little bit of a reservation or booking system to ensure that members, anyone, actually has a spot. What we do not want to do is open up the facility, have a waiting line there, only to find out that our members or anyone who wants to visit the facility can operate it or can't enter the facility. So in going through our statistics, going through our hourly visits, what we can put into the gyms, we feel confident that we can serve almost all of our members. In fact, over the course of a regular opening day, our numbers show that we can actually fit everyone in there. There is a couple of periods of time, namely in the early morning and right at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, where we do certainly see an influx. And that will be a little bit of a bottleneck there. That being said, we can get in the greater majority, and it's quite possible that some of our members may not come back at that time. So it would make it a little bit easier for us. So again, in any opening, we'd be recommending a little bit of a reservation system that does not eliminate a drop-in, but it does eliminate a guarantee if you were to drop in that a spot would be available for you. Along with our openings, we would have intervals for cleaning moving through. So again, going through, you also see our statistics and our monthly revenues. August, July are tough months. We don't have July there, just knowing that we would have been through July by the time this report came, but you do see our total revenues for August. You see a rather dramatic double jump basically for September, and then we come back down into a regular operating number through October and November. What is important to realize about September, it's not necessarily that busy of a month, but annually the Recreation Department has had pass card sales, membership sales, and our community certainly takes advantage of it, and I think that's illustrated right there by that number to see just how many people are in need of, well, those discounts or are taking advantage of it. So moving forward on any opening, it's very important to note extremely difficult to project or forecast what our revenues would look like. As I mentioned, we've had probably near just as many calls from those concerned who explain that they're not quite ready to come back and are inquiring about their memberships, and that may be because their own health concerns, or it could be even an adult who is caring for a father or a mother or a family member, and they simply cannot bring them, expose themselves and then go and can resume that relationship with whoever it may be. So that makes it extremely difficult to predict. Based on what we're feeling out, we think a safe number, and it doesn't really matter if we're talking about the pool or if we're talking about the gym, a safe number would probably be closer to 1/3 of the revenues that we normally gather on a regular basis. And including in these numbers, it's important to note, this is not exactly cash that comes over the counter. This includes membership fees that we've broken up over the course of a year. So In staying closed, we have to remember that we're carrying memberships forward, and that will probably run into 2020. In fact, I can almost guarantee it. And if we do open up, at least we will start wearing down that total or that hold on those memberships, so we have a little bit of a better handle moving forward. So again, at this time, we are essentially leaning more towards a gym opening. We do not know what's happening with the schools yet. Of course, schools play an important role of our pool. When we get back into September with school lessons, with school outings, people get into their regular routines as well with private lessons and group lessons. Both of those have been compromised by COVID under the new restrictions, particularly privates where mothers or a parent guardian must go into the pool with the very young, which is a little bit of a challenge, especially when we have to talk about how many numbers are there and we don't even know if all of those individuals actually want to move forward in that manner. And then of course our group lessons size restrictions have changed. So one of the automatic increases that we're going to have is sanitation costs. We're looking at opportunities and ways that we can reduce that cost, and certainly our staff will have a role in there, but there is going to be some increased sanitation costs. So at this point, we are leaning towards a gym opening at this time, but with the information in front of council, they certainly have their opportunity to offer their insights and their opportunities, what opportunities that they may see, or push this to another level with a complete opening. Again, I think under our position right now, we feel safe on pushing forward with the gym opening, and once we hear back from the school boards and things start to settle down and we have that opportunity to measure just how well things are going at the gym, how many people have returned to the gym, we'd be able to come back to council with a little bit more information for you, let you know where our targets are at right now and where we think they may be for the pool. Again, important to note, some of our busiest swims or our best swims are the lap swims at the pool. Unless you're a family member, it'll be one person per lane, meaning that's a maximum of 5 swimmers at any given time. For those who are familiar with the pool and the therapeutic pool, significantly smaller, that controls the amount of people that we could actually let into that pool safely. Same thing when we talk about family or public swims. Those numbers start to come back, and how do we ensure that people are social distancing? Do we feel like we can do it? Yes. Do we know the numbers are going to be down? I would say that's a certainty as well. Don't know if that's provides enough information at that time, but I'm certainly open to questions or comments.
Thanks, Steve. That's good. I kind of track with you. I'm sure all councillors were going back and forth all weekend since reading our agendas and looking at the data. So it's, I get it, and I think doing a gym opening first kind of seems to make sense. And once you do get that, as you said, that feedback from the schools about what their plans are, then it helps knowing when to do a next step, which would be the pool. But that's just my opinion. What about other councillors? Other opinions any out there? Or thoughts, questions?
I agree that what he's got written down here in his report is how we should go. We should just open the gym for now and see how it goes. And, especially with school starting or hopefully starting in September. And, that will determine a lot too and how the pool operates. So I think taking it slow and steady would be more the way that I would be comfortable with as going in fast and furious and just taking that chance that maybe we're not quite ready for that yet. So
yeah,
that's my opinion.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. And I see it's like, you need 3 things to kind of make this work. You need government legislation, and then you need staff willingness and their preparedness, and then you need the public willingness and desire to head back. So, Councillor Bush, you had your hand up, and then Councillor Carlucci, and then Councillor O'Shea McKinnon.
You're muted, Norm.
You need to unmute Councillor Bush.
You're muted.
Okay, thank you. Through the chair. I'm not sure I understand the numbers in totality, so maybe can I just ask a couple of questions, Steve, to make sure. So for example, you've got monthly staffing costs associated with the layoffs of $53,9680. And then the monthly staffing costs associated with gym reopening only at $10,070. So does that $10,973 include the $53.96, or is that incremental to it?
No, that includes. So we're paying, the city is topping up at present on some of those wages. So that includes the existing, where we are right now, and then bringing back. It's important to note that the top up that we're presently paying with the applies to 4 staff. If we were to open the gym, only 2 of those staff would return at this time. And that brings us up to that, basically that staffing total there, and along with some sanitation.
Okay, so you have an incremental cost of opening the gym of just less than $5,000 a month. And then you're suggesting, if I understand this, that your revenue would be about $5,000 a month. So essentially, it would be a financial wash to open the gym versus where we are today.
It could become close to a financial wash. What I should have put on here, there still is going to be a little bit of a top-up cost for the 2 employees who are still off. So there will be slightly more, because of that. But we're hoping that when the gym comes up, that we certainly feel like we'll have a better opportunity to generate some revenues through the gym as opposed to doing it through the pool, especially in the summer months where people have that opportunity to be in the lakes.
Okay, so then if we open the pool, the incremental cost of that $23,752, you got to take the $53.96 off it, and then so you take $5,000 off of that balance, and then another. You're suggesting $2,000 a month for the pool?
No, greater than that. That would be, if we were opening up the pool, we would be adding on another $13,000 in wages on there. That's with student lifeguards, with our return lifeguards, with disinfecting the pool, with the full cleaning of the change rooms. In our opening, we are not planning on opening the change rooms. If we were to open the gym, you come ready to dressed in your gym attire and you move forward. By opening the pool, we really open up into full cleaning of the building, full disinfection of the change rooms, extra lifeguard staff to be able to do that, lifeguard staff to be able to break up the groups in general. So it's basically double the cost of just opening the gym to be able to open up the pool as well. We'd be bringing back a number of staff.
Yeah, so actually you'd probably spend an incremental about $11,000 to open the pool.
That's correct. We'd be looking at that on top.
So it costs the city nothing to open the gym, but it costs another $11,000 to open the pool in a month that's traditionally a low usage month.
Yeah, if we do well, it could cost us nothing to open the gym, but if we were to open the pool, we know there's going to be significant increase in cost, especially in August. I do not anticipate great revenues in August at all. Historically, it's been one of our slowest months. July and August are difficult.
And then supplementary. So then your projections, if you just assume that September, October, and November were around 25,000, forget the bump in the memberships for September, that increased revenue in September would actually help offset those. You'd basically get the usage in September that you weren't getting in August to help offset the incremental cost. Would that be true?
Potentially, yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. So I guess with that understanding, I'm kind of inclined to side with the mayor and Councillor Price and say, let's open the gym, see how it goes, and then plan for a pool opening in September when the anticipated memberships would be up and usage would be up, and we'd be better able to cover those costs.
Exactly.
Okay.
That would be our feeling
Thank you.
at the time.
Okay, Councillor Carlucci, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, I did. Through the chair, Steve, I guess I'm of another approach that I'm more cautious, inhibited here. I mean, great report, but I'm more taking the precautionary side of not opening at all until because really we're not making a whole bunch of money to do this. So to wait a little bit longer, I'm all in favor of doing that. I mean, love your report, but again, final council decision, but I'm just taking the precautionary approach.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Shane McKinnon.
Thank you, and thank you for your report, Mr. Belanger. And you know, it's such a great facility for our community, or really for any community, and it's a shame to see it closed for a day, never mind a period of time like this. But a couple of questions. I see that your staffing numbers, we had budgeted for that for 2020 in any event. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Okay. So for us to get enamored with a cost recovery type model is kind of dangerous. And I know I noticed that you didn't talk about the arena side at all at this point, and I imagine that's going to be coming up pretty quick. But just generally, our pool, fitness center, and arena, we don't recover the cost for those through fees. That's just something that our community pays for because it's nice for a community to have. Is that correct?
We are operating the arena a little bit less on the recovery end, but it's probably important to note that some of our maintenance costs are distributed throughout other buildings when we go. But we're basically, the pool is somewhere around that 47 to 49% recovery, and the arena is slightly lower.
But it'll never be 100%.
Well, I do not know of any municipality, small town municipality that's anywhere near 100% at this time.
So just getting away from that for a second, then you've given us what you think will suffice to reduce the numbers and keep everyone safe. Where do you get that advice? Is that provincial advice that you're getting?
Yeah, we're strictly going off of the orders right now on what we can do and following the provincial orders. We have been in touch. Certainly there's a couple of pools that have an outdoor pool that we know of that has opened up, and another full-time one. A little bit of a different, some of the pools are obviously different. Some of them have 2 or 3, you know, including a wading pool, a diving pool, and then an actual lap pool, which allows for that social distancing and more programming. Unfortunately, we're not really in that boat. So we are a little bit different. No, we're operating 100% through the regulations and through the Ontario orders.
Okay. So I tend to agree with Councillor Carlucci actually in being cautious to the point of remaining closed, but I understand the demand, and I understand that in our region we've been pretty conscientious about that. So to open the gymnasium, or the gym, for folks, you're going to be monitoring how they do, how they comply, and if there's some recourse if they don't comply or refuse to comply, will they be suspended from there?
Yeah, we wouldn't really have much of a choice, right? One of the good news, good news, there's been, you know, an order, now I'm sure it was mandatory masks to be put in place. I thought I read something where it was being considered. The mask would certainly help. Now, we can't expect people to wear a mask while they're working out, but as they enter the facility, when they go into common areas, when they're around other people, having that mask certainly helps. We always expect people to wipe down gym equipment, and we have a plan on how we're going to identify, you know, which pieces of equipment, and basically staggering every other unit to keep a goal out, you know, to ensure that people's safety is paramount. But yeah, we may have to, I would hope it doesn't come to that. Hopefully we've seen enough examples of what respect and disrespect means, you know, at times like this. But yeah, we would certainly have a level of control over, you know, have to impose a level of control on the actions of our users.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Bush?
Yes, I just want to clarify one point, I guess, with respect to cost recovery. In no way, shape, or form in any of these scenarios does the city not end up subsidizing the pool and fitness center. Because right now, with where we are, we're not covering the utilities, we're not covering a lot of salary costs. So my point with the gym, that opening the gym costs the city no additional monies. No additional monies.
See if the revenues project right.
if your revenue forecast is right, but it's still highly subsidized under all scenarios. And so opening the pool just means that the cost recovery in August, because it's a low usage month, would be that much more challenging. So we would lose even more money opening the pool than we would otherwise have. But having said that, I think safety issues trump everything that we're doing, obviously, through this whole COVID environment. But at some point, we have to dip our toes in the water and see whether or not our processes and our procedures and our protocols work and we can manage the public safely. And from my perspective, I think opening the gym gives us a good opportunity to manage that public interface and just see how well, from a safety perspective, we can manage it. And that probably, I would suggest, may help us with respect to whatever we end up doing with the pool in later months and also the arena complex. So I still would like to support your recommendation to open the pool or open the fitness center in August and use that as much as a learning tool ahead of any sort of arena opening, reopening, and pool reopening. So that's my perspective.
Thank you. Councillor Martin McKinnon?
Yeah, I guess I pretty much can support opening the gym part of it. With registration, people have to phone in and get an appointment. I'm sorry, but that's the way of the world now. And they have to follow our safety protocols immaculately. And if somebody were to come out and say they have to wear masks, then that's part of the deal. And people have to realize that going in. I'm all about safety on this. I don't really care about the cost. I want people safe first. And it's a new world out there for everybody, and people better get used to following the safety rules, even when they don't want to. The mask thing's a big issue because it got blown into a political thing when it should never have happened. Sure, people have rights, but it's our right as a community to expect everybody to be unselfish and treat other patrons the same way. So I'm good with opening the pool. It's a good slow start. I mean, I'm good with opening the gym. It's a good slow start. We really have to study what we do with the rest of the rink and the pool, to make sure that our protocols are working correctly and people know the rules. So I can support opening it on a very limited basis to the capacity that we can legally take.
Okay, so that's the general direction. I think we're saying follow the recommendation of Steve. I'm good with
just
that.
one note, any reopening, we have individuals, as I mentioned, who are laid off. There is a 10-day recall notice. So if we were to open the pool, those two individuals would be basically called back immediately. And then we'd still have a couple of days of training. It's important we remember that our staff, these individuals were laid off quite early in the game and have missed out on a lot of the policies, procedures, and some of the things that we've implemented over at the pool. Well, everything basically that we've tried to implement the pool and the way that we're going to go. So there is going to be a little bit of a training component there. So our actual opening will be pushed to, I believe it is probably August the 17th, if that's the Monday, if I'm correct. And that will take us, that time to get those, obviously 2 weeks to get people back, and then a small training refresher. Our building is ready to go, and we have that opportunity to communicate everything to everyone. So that will also help too. The later we move into the summer, the better chance we do have on recouping, some of these costs, because we know July and August are certainly our most quietest months.
And Steve, I think it would be good to hopefully touch base with you again in August at the council meeting and just give us an update, and perhaps by then you might have heard from the schools. I know they've got a lot on their plate to figure out right now too, so this is low down on their priority list, but it's important for us in the community. Okay, thank you very much.
Your Worship.
Roger?
Your Worship?
Yes, Roger, go ahead.
Yeah, through your worship, just to clarify, we've on a few different instances, we interchanged pool with fitness center during that discussion. So just to clarify, in case we have any public watching or media,
Sure.
local media watching, we're going to go forward. We're going to open the fitness center only. We're not going to open the pool at
Right.
this time.
Right.
So we'll be working to open the fitness center in August.
Yes, thanks for clarifying that, Roger.
Sure. Thank you.
Councillor Bush?
Just a question through the chair with respect to any potential future openings based on our learnings with the gym, for example. If there's some contemplation of opening the arena and or the pool complex in September, given what you're just talking about now with reorienting employees, when would we need to discuss the pool again, and when would we need to discuss the arena again as a council in terms of those potential reopenings, given how long it takes to bring people back and train them, etc.? Is that an August discussion or September? Or?
So my thought, Councillor Bush, was that if there was an update from Steve that he wished to advise council, whether it's at the committee of the whole meeting or the regular meeting, as soon as he finds out, he gets clearer direction himself, then he could, if he feels comfortable in being able to make a recommendation to council, then it could be in a few weeks, or it could be, you know, towards the end of August. That's how I'm kind of thinking it. But again, Steve, how does that sit with you?
We're anxiously awaiting. Basically, I know everyone's questioning about the arena, and we're getting a lot of calls about the rink too, you know, and what that may look like. HNO, Hockey Northwestern Ontario, is the governing body, you know, for Hockey Canada in this area. Hockey Canada has moved everything down and given the opportunity for all of the branches to decide what their opening may look like. Now, it was understood HNO may have a document released last week. I wasn't exactly fully optimistic that would happen, and sure enough, there hasn't been anything yet, so we're expecting it this week. As soon as I get that, we're going to basically digest it. I've been in contact with all of our user groups, all of our core or main user groups of the arena, from our junior A club to minor hockey to girls hockey to figure skating. So I got a little bit of a general idea of what they're feeling, but again, everyone is waiting for HNO to see what that directive is. As soon as something comes from HNO, we'll be having a quick meeting with all of the groups to find out what their intentions are. They've certainly been thinking about it for a while, and I'll be bringing back a report again. I suspect I'll probably be in front of you for the next few meetings anyways until we're back open. But we do know HNO is, Hockey Northwestern Ontario, is going to be releasing the return to play guidelines in the very near future. And as soon as everyone's had a chance to digest that, including our user groups and ourselves, I'll be back in front of you. And I do intend to, upon 1 month, ensure that I'm back in front of you to let you know how we're doing with regards to the gym. If anything changes from now until then with the pool, again, we'll be right there knocking on the door.
Okay, thank you.
All right. No other questions, comments? Okay, we'll see you next month, Steve, hopefully.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. We have one notice of motion this evening, and I'll ask the acting clerk to walk through this item.
Okay, Councillor Bush, on behalf of the Master Plan Steering Committee, has submitted a notice of motion which he would like addressed at this meeting. The notice of motion form, along with the support documentation, are included with your agenda packages. In order to allow discussion on this matter this evening, all members of council, without debate, must agree to waive the notice requirement. I will ask for members to move and second the motion to waive the notice requirement, and then we'll move forward. And so, without further ado, Councillor Bush and Councillor Shane McKinnon, thank you. Okay, moved by Councillor Bush, seconded by Councillor Shane McKinnon, that council waive the notice provisions of section 47-49 of the City of Dryden procedural bylaw and chapter 133 notices of the City of Dryden municipal code to allow for the introduction of a motion without notice.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Right, all right.
Okay, and that is good. Now that's taken care of. Councillor Bush, if you'd like to go ahead and present the motion and your information.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, just on behalf of myself, Councillor Shane McKinnon, Councillor Price, and CAO Roger Nesbitt, we're appreciative of the ability to speak to this motion this evening. We'd like to present the motion with the supporting document, have some discussion, and ideally, we'd like to vote on the motion. Hopefully, we'll get a positive response, and if we do get a positive response, then we would move forward with respect to this item. So you've seen the notice of motion. I'll just read that one more time with respect to the wording. And the wording says, the Master Plan Steering Committee recommends that Council approve the formation of a working circle comprised of 4 Indigenous community members and 4 city representatives to develop joint recommendations to Council to achieve the city's strategic plan goals to foster positive relationships with Indigenous people. And Council, as I said earlier, Councillor McKinnon, Shane McKinnon, Price, and Roger Nesbitt, and myself put a fair bit of work and thought into it. I'll just refer you to the strategic planning document that's tied to this notice of motion, and I'll read that as well for the benefit of the public. Although this is part of the City of Dryden strategic plan, which is strengthening Indigenous relations, irrespective of the strategic plan, I think this is an area that pretty much everybody on council, I won't speak for everybody, so I'll say pretty much everybody on council, has a strong desire to strengthen and build on our relationships with our Aboriginal community members. That includes neighboring First Nations communities, Eagle Lake, Wabigoon Lake, and the Métis Nation of Ontario. Council and staff recognize that having a diverse and inclusive community is a cornerstone of any strong, sustainable community. Strengthening relations with Aboriginal peoples is a key initiative in our city strategic plan. 2 areas of the city strategic plan identify priorities associated with building on these relationships. And if I refer you to the strategic plan, 2 items, goal 2.1, community diversity and inclusion. 1.0 reads, develop support systems to integrate and familiarize new and existing citizens to the City of Dryden, recognizing that not all of whom may be Indigenous. We have a lot of other people moving to the community as well, both from Canada and other countries. 2.0 under that same goal of community diversity and inclusion reads, continue to foster positive relationships with Indigenous peoples and neighboring First Nations communities. Under 2.5, the goal of economic and investment diversity, item 7.0 reads, partner with Indigenous organizations and communities and other organizations to foster local and regional economic growth. So we all recognize, both staff and council, through our strategic planning initiatives, that we've got a changing demographic in our community. We've got more and more Indigenous people and organizations moving into the community. And so we have a strong desire to help welcome those new community members and organizations and make sure that when we state that we're a welcoming community for all of our established Aboriginal citizens and newcomers, we're not only seen to be welcoming, by those who matter most, and that's the city's Aboriginal community. It's fine to say we're welcoming, but we want to make sure that our Aboriginal partners and citizens also feel welcome. So as I noted, although we want to continue to reach out to our local First Nations communities to strengthen those relationships as we have been doing, we recognize that we probably need to focus more intensely on our own Aboriginal citizens, both First Nations and Métis. This focus will also include all Aboriginal organizations within the community. There's a long list of them. I won't go through them here, but we're all familiar with them. To that end, the city will work collaboratively with local Aboriginal people to get their input on fostering positive relationships with Indigenous peoples and building a cohesive community. I think we all recognize that if we do things in isolation, ownership, buy-in will be lacking, and at the end of the day, we want to change attitudes and behaviors. So as part of this process, the city must understand how its Aboriginal residents feel about living in Dryden. What are the positives? What detracts from their experience? What is required to build a more cohesive, inclusive community where everyone feels included? And in order to do this, we need to identify barriers, real or perceived, that may discourage Indigenous people from fully participating in the activities, clubs, businesses, recreational opportunities, cultural venues, municipal and community volunteer activities, and everything else that the city has to offer. It's a big job. We recognize and think that there are some things that, should we get approval to go ahead with this working circle, that we could probably do fairly quickly to generate some early successes, demonstrate that we are working together, build some credibility as we continue to work on maybe some of the more challenging issues going forward. We've included in terms of reference for this Indigenous Relations Working Circle. I won't necessarily read all of the items, but I will just read some of them to give a general flavor of what it's about. So we initially had talked about it as being a committee or a working group, but the more we talked and listened to some of our Aboriginal organizations and others in the community, working circle seemed to be a more inclusive word and something that was more appealing to Indigenous people in general. So this working circle we would have as proposed to be a subcommittee of Master Plan Steering Committee. We would propose that the working circle be comprised of 4 Indigenous citizens of the city, 3 city councillors, and the city's Chief Administrative Officer, Roger Nesbitt. All members of the working circle would be appointed by council. The term of the working circle would be the remaining term of this current council, and it would be up to the next council to continue its work. The quorum for the working circle meeting would be a minimum of 5 members, at least 2 of which must be Indigenous, 2 of which must be city members. That would be to ensure that we always have the appropriate balance. We would suggest that the chair and the co-chair of the working circle be comprised of 1 Indigenous member and 1 city member. And the working circle would identify issues important to Dryden's Indigenous population. These would include such things as lifestyle issues, social issues, amenities Indigenous people are looking for, and other issues impacting their experience living in the community, positive or negative. We'd identify the actions, that group would identify the actions the city could take to improve the experience of Aboriginal people in Dryden. Again, some of those actions might be things that we could do fairly quickly. Some of them might be somewhat symbolic in nature, but coming out of this in group, we would have the buy-in and ownership of our Indigenous partners. And those things could be done and lay the framework and lay the groundwork for dealing with some of the more challenging issues going forward. We'd look to identify actions or activities the community could take to bring the Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal community members closer together. It may start with small steps that could lead to bigger steps over time. The working circle will identify opportunities for fostering positive relationships between Indigenous peoples and other community members and make recommendations to the Master Plan Steering Committee to capture those opportunities. We suggest the working circle meet at least monthly and report its progress and findings to the Master Plan Steering Committee. Both the Master Plan Steering Committee and the working circle are committees of council. And as such, they would be charged with carrying out their respective mandates and bringing forward recommendations to council for discussion and approval. Neither committee has decision-making authority. That rests solely with council. So this group really would be a working group working on behalf of council and working to look forward to implement the strategic plan items that I discussed. And so we would ask tonight to have some discussion on this subject and hopefully hold it up to a vote. And with any luck, that vote would be positive and we could move forward on behalf of the city. But before we get to those next steps, I'd like to ask my colleagues, Councillor Shane McKinnon and Councillor Price and Roger Nesbitt, if they have other comments they'd like to make to council before we get into the questions.
Councillor McKinnon?
Thank you, Your Worship. And really, as my colleagues are aware, I'm quite passionate about these issues, and I'm convinced that a working circle composed as described in our terms of reference will be effective and will become a much needed resource for not only council but for the community. We continue to have some frank and enlightening discussions with Indigenous individuals and organizational leaders. It became apparent that we have a lot of work to do that will make Indigenous persons and Indigenous businesses comfortable in our own community. I'm very optimistic about our future, and I support this motion wholeheartedly. Rich.
Anyone else?
It's Councillor Price here. I'm sorry, I keep cutting in and out. As Councillor Bush and Councillor McKinnon both stated, I think that Councillor Bush has really put a lot of thought into this motion, and I don't think anything has been left out that would need to be covered. I agree with Councillor McKinnon on the fact that, and it's been brought up in other meetings outside of the ones that we have recently attended in regards to Working Circle, regarding Indigenous businesses, and I often wondered why we did not have that in a community when we are surrounded by Indigenous people. So I'm very hopeful that with this Working Circle and that it will work out the way that it should, and that it will encourage our Indigenous community members to open businesses, and not only that the businesses that are available right now in our community, that they are encouraged to invite people, Indigenous people, to apply for positions within those businesses. I am very hopeful, and I have a strong feeling that this is going to really work for our community. And like I said, I think Councillor Bush has really covered everything, and I thoroughly enjoyed speaking with members of DNFC and some other Indigenous elders in our community in regards to how this would be set up. And like I said, I'm really looking forward to working within this circle. And I 100%, 200% support this motion.
Right, thank you. And just before anybody else, Roger, did you have any, as part of the committee, did you have any other comments? Or
Through your worship, I think this is extremely important work. I think there is a lot of work to do. I look forward to being part of this committee if council so chooses, and really support a working circle being developed. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Councillor Martin McKinnon?
Thank you, Mayor. I guess first I'd like to thank Councillor Price, Councillor Bush, Councillor McKinnon, and CAO Nesbitt for the huge amount of work they put into this. I know they put all kinds of work in this, and it's good work and it's hard work. This is a huge step forward for our community. Only the first step of many that has to happen. I've been around probably longest of all you councillors, and we have needed this for not only generations, but for years. It's time we moved on as people in this community. There's only one way to do that, and that's take all people together. So thank you very much for the work you've put into this. I support this 150%. I'll do anything I can to help make this work for the community of Dryden. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Councillor Carlucci?
Thank you, through the mayor. Thank you as well. I'll echo my sentiments to thank Councilors Bush, McKinnon, and Price, and our CAO. I'll support this 150% as well. Just a couple comments that I'd like to make is on the last line where you said about any recommendations that are made through the committee, if they can come out earlier than later, i.e., land acknowledgement, if they come up to a session where they decide, in a couple of months that they've got one and bring it forward to council, that's appreciative. I'd rather get things done sooner than later. So I'm glad that's an option that happens. Great job on the work. I'm 100%. And the other comment I wanted to make is I know there's some community members out there that have commented on maybe they could just join the committee to help give us their expertise. It's important that we reach out to them to see if they want to join the committee. I'm not sure how the process is or how that's going to work, but it's something that we should be looking at as well. But a great job to all of you, and I think, like Councillor Martin McKinnon said, this is a great asset for the city, and I can't wait to see the fruits of his labors. It's going to be all positive for us, so thank you very much.
All right, thank you. I don't think we've heard from Councillor McKay. Is he there?
Yeah,
I got my hand up.
yeah.
Okay, can't see you.
Yeah, I can't say how much I'm so happy that there's such full support of this initiative between all councillors, and I imagine the mayor too. So it's very heartening to feel it's been a while since we've all been on the same page on something such as important as this. So yeah, this is good stuff.
All right.
Full support. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor McKay, I wonder if maybe I just wonder if you just put your video on. I don't think it's on.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's on. Yeah.
That's on.
Okay, yeah, it just shows your name. Okay. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
this motion, it really adheres to our mission and our vision statements and aligns with our strategic planning goals. So of course, we would expect full council support. So that's really great. All right. So thank you. Want to do a motion?
Yep.
Okay, so can I have someone move and second the motion to move forward with this, please? Councillor Carlucci and Councillor Sheen.
Councillor McKay.
Oh, sorry, we can't see Dave, so, sorry, Councillor McKinnon.
Oh, that's what's happening.
I can see you here, but
Oh, I wouldn't.
Moved by Councillor Carlucci, seconded by Councillor Shane McKinnon, that at the recommendation of the Master Plan Steering Committee, Council approved the formation of a working circle comprised of 4 Indigenous community members and 4 city representatives to develop joint recommendations to Council to achieve the city's strategic plan goals to foster positive relationships with Indigenous peoples.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Carried. Thank you. Okay, we have one notice of... Sorry, Councillor Bush?
Yes, Yes,
No,
thank
that was
you.
my dog.
Through the chair. Just before we leave this item, I just would like to say that, we don't plan on doing this important work in the dark. We want to be open and transparent, so anybody on council that's not on the committee has any thoughts, suggestions, questions, please feel free to contact any one of us on the committee, Councillor Shane McKinnon, Price, Roger Nesbitt, or myself, and we'll certainly take your comments, suggestions, questions, and deal with them. And so it's an open, transparent process, and if you aren't hearing from us, and just give us a shout. But we do plan on reporting back at some frequency to council, and obviously to get approval for things that we might bring forward.
We look forward to it. All right, thank you. So we have one motion this evening, and I'll ask the acting clerk to explain.
Okay, we received a request from the Kenora District Services Board earlier this month, but too late to make the Committee of the Whole agenda, so the request is being presented this evening. The KDSB is asking Council to provide a letter of support regarding its Regional Housing Strategy Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation application, as is explained in the email received on July the 6th. If this is something Council would like to support, we can have a resolution to move forward with that, but if anyone wants to speak to it, we can start with that.
Any comments, questions?
Okay, so should I just see if there's anyone like to move and second the resolution? Councillor Martin McKinnon, and I have
I'll second.
Oh, Councillor Price, there you are. Okay, so moved by Councillor Martin McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Price, that at the request of the Kenora District Services Board, Council directs staff to write a letter of support for the KDSB's Regional Housing Strategy Northern Ontario Heritage Fund Corporation application for Mayor Wilson's signature.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Carried, thank you. Okay, so reports of municipal officers, CAO.
Thank you, through your worship. Just a couple of comments tonight. Staff continue municipal service recovery with the reopening of our splash pads, some of the public washrooms in our parks and outdoor spaces, resuming park rentals. The museum is open again under some restrictions, and the library is planning to reopen again with limited hours and some limited services. So we, and I guess with tonight's decision, we'll be moving forward with a reopening of the fitness center as well in August. So I'd just like to remind everyone, any viewers tonight, our public, that physical distancing and any gathering size restrictions that are in place have to be adhered to. And if you're inside any public spaces, please consider wearing a mask for everyone's safety. And then a couple other updates in regards to our service delivery and organizational review that's underway in the organization. Our consultants have completed the internal data gathering and job shadowing activities that were planned. The consultants are currently working on putting together the municipal comparators and also working on developing the opportunities that'll be derived from their analysis. The public survey that we had conducted as part of that project closed on July 19th, and we had approximately 300 respondents to the survey. Piece of good news for the airport. The city-owned hangar out at the Dryden Regional Airport was sold to Expedition Helicopter at the end of June. So we got to welcome the Expedition team to the family out at the Dryden Airport. Looking forward to many years of interactions with that company out at the airport. Staff has also deployed our 5-year municipal strategy plan reporting module, which consists of a performance management dashboard, as well as a priorities and initiatives progress reporting tool. We'll be working to deploy further municipal dashboards namely our departmental key performance indicator dashboard in the coming months under that same software. So we're looking forward to that. It's a great way to share information with our residents and with council and even with our internal employees. So we're looking forward to that. And that's it for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And next is our treasurer, Stephen.
All right, so a little bit of an update. So we continue, obviously, to monitor and manage our 2020 budget, but we are starting the planning and preparation for our 2021 operating and capital budget. So that work began the end of June and is going to continue for the balance of this fiscal year. We also completed a 10-year capital forecast that will be presented to all of council in the not too distant future. That will be a very dynamic document that will be constantly updated and revised, but as far as the long-term planning tool, it is extremely important to have that document put in place. So I look forward to presenting that to council in the future. Also working on some policy updates and a new user fee policy, as well as what Roger had mentioned, wrapping up our departmental KPIs for public display. That's it for me.
All right, thanks, Stephen. Allison?
Okay, the city's bylaws and policies are now easier to find and in a new format on our website. For bylaws, you just select city services and bylaws, and to find policies, you select city services and policies, that'll take you right there. There's a little more tweaking needed, but the project is pretty much done. The city's new columbarium has been installed, and the niches will be available for sale beginning next week with the approval of the price list this evening. And planning for next year's Kenora District Municipal Association conference is continuing.
Right, thank you. And Blake, Public Works.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll start off by just telling you a little bit what's going on with our capital projects. Our Van Horn project is well underway. The contractor just finished their 4-day off, and we'll be coming back tomorrow to work 10 straight days again here. We continue to run into a few surprises when we find pipe underground there from 1927 or 1934 and connect it up with some existing pipes and ensuring we're not cutting somebody off service and stuff. So we're running into some interesting developments, nothing we can't handle though. We also, you know, it's the sidewalk and curb contract is almost complete. It's basically the final stages of cleanup going on with that, and that project going fairly well. You might also notice our bridge inspections started today as well here, and that includes the skywalk this year. We're doing an inspection on that as well, the structural inspection. As far as operations go, we're still out sweeping. We're doing grass cutting and vacant lots, and in some of the rural area, line painting and crack sealing is finished. We've started to do some storm sewer work. You may notice some holes opened up on some corners. So we're replacing a number of those and fixing them up. A few more have opened up over the last week or so. Parks is currently in the phase 3 of the COVID-19, so playgrounds are now open for use. As long as users are following social distancing rules, people will notice a few playground upgrades. There's been a couple of new swing sets put in. We're doing some tree cleanup in Sandy Beach Park currently here, and just continuing to with our parks crew. And as far as water and sewer is going right now, they finished their 2nd Street replacement is now completed. The CCTV and cleaning crew contract is here. They should be almost done, and completing our sanitary and storm sewer CCTV as well. So it's been a fairly busy month at least here, and it looks like we have some more projects to finish up within the next few. So that's my report.
Blake, to me, your Your portfolio of responsibilities is, what is it Humphrey Bogart said, the stuff dreams are made of? It's like that's big reason why we're here. I just love hearing it, especially in the summer, because you guys are just busier than beavers, so thank you. Manager of Community Services, Steve.
Thank you. Obviously not open, so there's not a whole lot in that manner of our programming perspective, but our projects within the facility, a lot of them are kind of wrapping up, except for our two capital ones. We've ripped out, as we talked about before, we've ripped out all of our floor. With that, we've unearthed a few little issues, nothing too dramatic, but there's certainly been some attempted repairs over the years. So the new flooring is scheduled. Contractors are going to be arriving on August the 3rd. Now that date was backed up slightly, and which is just fine, in this year, and really excited to see everything come through. Our doors are in, we're painting our doors. We had replaced all of our frames leading into the dressing rooms and even getting into the hallway. Our users are going to find that certainly much more user-friendly. MyLift continues to operate. We're still using funds that were acquired through United Way, although those are about to wrap up in the coming weeks. But in the meantime, we're continuing to move some hampers around, and we were doing that again this weekend. So really glad that we've been able to put those dollars to good use and help out some of the community outside of our normal MyLift operation. So bulk of our majorities has kind of been planning a little bit, I guess, for the unknown in the way of COVID openings, including the report that you've seen this evening, and what our numbers may look like and what opening that facility will be like and how many people we can get in there. So really pleased the way that we are. Carrie, the pool staff have been great, and over on the arena. It's obviously going to be a challenge, and we really don't know what that's going to look like, but we're trying to get ourselves ready. A little bit of a hurry up and wait sort of feel to it right now. HVAC unit through capital project is ordered. A tender was awarded, so we're looking to have that installed. Hopefully that's right about the time we open back up. Erin Park, although we're not seeing the same amount of highway traffic we normally are, we are extremely busy on the weekends, and it's pretty well been jam-packed. Unfortunately, we had a couple of tree falls this weekend, which made things a little bit interesting and damaged, a camper and a truck. But apart from that, Erin Park, it's been a little bit of a success story. Congrats to Nate and his team on being able to scramble to get everything going there. He's got a great group of kids, and we're quite pleased on how that looks. We also had a roofing contractor in the building recently installing a sweep to protect our new condenser. Also do some minor patch repairs, so that's going well. Simcoe Mechanical, our refrigeration contractors, are in the building. They're doing their summer overhaul to ensure that we're ready to go when that time comes. So other than that, we're putting on the fine details now, or reached that point where most of our projects are complete. Cleaning up last of our signage is going on, and we're still busy cutting the grass. I told you we fertilized and fed those fields and playgrounds, soccer pitches and ball diamonds, and with that it's resulted in a little bit of increased cutting, but I think our users are going to be really pleased what's happened with a year of rest for those fields. It's as lush as our staff have ever seen them. So I think that's about it.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, you're not exactly slouching either. So you're more behind the scenes with a number of things, and it'll be like Christmas Day for a lot of people when they go into the new arena. It'll be exciting. Councillor Bush, you had a comment? Oh, your mic. Your mic, Councillor Bush.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, Stephen, you mentioned a couple of trees falling down and hitting a camper and a truck, and it just brought back some memories I had from the campground incident I was familiar with in British Columbia and a couple others in Canada over the last number of years, where trees have fallen down and sometimes with pretty tragic results. So the question is there something we can learn from those trees falling down, or is there any plan to audit some of the forest in Erin Park to see whether there are other trees that might need to be removed on a proactive basis for people's safety?
We certainly try to keep an eye on all of them, and Nate's done a really good job. And we had a conversation about that, and although we try to leave up as many. Nate has obviously a background in forestry, and he's been pretty good at identifying, what trees, and that certainly helps us out. When we get the right lumber that's ready to come down, we're actually selling that as firewood, which helps our other end. But I understand a little bit, maybe a microburst kind of blew through that area, east of the town over the course Friday night, and we are lucky. There was a tree that fell down and ended up hitting a camper. There was people inside. Thankfully, there was no injuries to that individual. But again, yeah, Nate's been taking a look, a thorough look around the park and see it's full of trees, and it is mature. And thankfully, he's got a little bit of a background and he knows what to look for, in terms of a tree that may be struggling. So we're going to continue, and hopefully we end up with more firewood before we end up with another incident like that.
Yeah, just for consideration, but it may be worth having a chat about whether you want to just get somebody in to actually do an audit from a due diligence perspective.
Yeah, we can.
All right, thank you. And last of municipal officers, Fire Chief Grimwood.
Good evening, thank you. It's been a very busy several weeks for the fire department. In early July, we had 7 new recruits start responding to calls, working out very well, getting actually a lot of experience. It's been a busy 3 weeks since they came on. We did water rescue training over the course of 2 Saturdays. We ran 21 firefighters through a full day training course where at least 3/4 of the day was spent in the water performing practical rescue skills and scenarios. So that was great training. Puts us in a really good position to be confident in our ability to perform water rescues. We have had 2 structure fires over the last 2 weeks, both of which had excellent outcomes and went extremely well. We had a very quick response time. We had sufficient staffing. In both cases, we stopped the fire in the room of origin. There were no injuries to any occupants or firefighters. Both of them went operationally extremely well. Early Sunday morning, we responded outside of the city to assist the OPP with a very complicated technical rescue that combined skills of water rescue, rope rescue, and confined space rescue. It was executed flawlessly. The firefighters did a phenomenal job. Very difficult, involved a very intricate amount of planning and a lot of safety margins. Went very well. I echo what Steve had indicated about the potential microburst. As Saturday morning, we responded essentially across the highway from Aaron Park, where we had over half dozen trees take down some high voltage hydro wires and start a fire in the area as well. So that would be consistent that there was a swath of trees taken out with wind. Our capital projects are proceeding well. We've received the pumper truck from Fort Garry. It has to go back to Winnipeg. Some of the accessory equipment was delayed because of COVID, but we wanted to get all the driver training done during good weather conditions. So we've now received the truck. We're going to spend the next 7 weeks training on it, and then it'll go back to Winnipeg and be finished off before it's placed into service. All of our new SCBA have arrived, and we're about 2/3 completed the training there. And then somewhat outside of the fire end of my division, we are in the middle of doing fire and evacuation drills for all of the city buildings. Liz Godden's coordinating that with each of the managers. We've completed 2 of the buildings. In each case, we go into the building, we conduct a fire drill, we make sure that staff are prepared, and staff and any public that may be in the building. Those fire drills are going well. It's part of our broader corporate safety strategy. And then a small working group of the treasurer, the manager of public works, myself, my deputy chief, and the health and safety coordinator have taken on the task of reviewing the city's hazard identification risk assessment. We've spent about 5 hours over 3 days so far on conference calls, and we're just about finished. And what this does is it assesses and ranks the probability and consequence of over 50 different types of emergencies. So it really guides our emergency management program and training and exercises so that we know what the most likely hazards and emergencies to the city of Dryden are. So yeah, it's been a very busy but a very excellent few weeks for the fire department. Happy to answer any questions.
Any comments, questions by anyone? Keep up the good work, Chief. Thank you very much. Okay, so on with council. So I just wanted to more or less draw the attention, the public's attention to our strategic plan again. I know we've talked about it a few times here tonight. Roger was mentioning the reporting plan module, and if I'd really like to encourage members of the public who may have not been checking out our website that often, or maybe they have and they haven't noticed it, but check out our strategic plan link. It's the City of Dryden 5-year community strategic plan. What you'll find on this link on the main page there is you're going to find our mission statement, you're going to find our vision statement, our guiding principles, our strategic goals and priorities, our strategic plan reporting, our download center where we can download everything, past strategic plans all the way back, I think, to 2007. And what I'm probably most excited about that we've talked about in various meetings is those strategic plan reporting modules, the dashboard, and the priorities and initiatives link. And for the strategic plan dashboard, I just want to read what you'll find. You'll find a link to each of the city's 6 strategic goals, showcasing relevant key performance indicators that provide annual stats on a range of items. And so I just want to read them briefly. So you're going to see a link on community diversity and inclusion, a scorecard. You're going to see community safety and well-being, infrastructure, fiscal sustainability, economic and investment diversity, and communication and our people. And you can click on them and you can just get an understanding, a deeper understanding, drilling down into what we're working on. And if you want to go down even further, our priorities and initiatives, under priorities and initiatives, the scorecards, what we've got is like these different headings, right? So you've got your strategic priority, you've got the initiative, what we're trying to do. So for example, renovate change rooms at the Pool Fitness Center and so on and so forth. You've got a targeted implementation date, so 2021, 2022. Who's responsible, who's the lead, what kind of progress, where are we at with that? And also then the next steps. And on that one, identify accessibility funding grants to support this initiative. So the public has access to this, they can see this, and they can track how we're doing. And I just think it's really important because when you think about, let's say, our mission statement, which says to deliver sustainable municipal services and infrastructure with courtesy, integrity, transparency, and fiscal responsibility, that's the mission statement. And then the vision statement saying Dryden is recognized as a vibrant, safe, healthy and inclusive community with a diverse economy, providing an exceptional quality of life. There's a tendency, I think, among people, if they're not really understanding what we're trying to accomplish by creating a mission and vision statement, they could look at it and say, what's the point of this? So these statements will keep us heading in the right direction. So for example, someone who says, we're not living up to our vision statement that we want to be recognized as a vibrant, safe, healthy and inclusive community with a diverse economy, well, I'd respond to them and I'd say, by saying that may or may not be true, that we're living up to it, but having the statement of vision in the first place reminds us that we're supposed to be committed to that path. And the strategic plan dashboard, which the public can access any day or night, it'll tell us how we're doing with, say, our 6 strategic goals. So I think it's underutilized. I think the people that do follow these council meetings on a regular basis, they may or may not go to these websites, these links in our website. But I think the majority of Drydenites aren't really aware, and I think there's improvement we can make on our website, and I really think administration's working towards that end. But I really see there's some good things happening in the city, and the way to keep yourself abreast of what's going on at the city, other than just the things you're interested in, take some time and browse our website and see what kind of things that we're up to. It'll really help you keep informed. And second thing I wanted to mention was just today, I think it was Pam and I had an opportunity to go to the soup kitchen at the Friendship Center, and they asked for a number of people from the city and all over the community to come and participate in the soup kitchen, and they got such an overwhelming response by members of the community that they said to the city, from what I understand, we don't need you for this whole week. How about if you just take a few of you each day, because there's a lot of people that want to get involved in this. So I think that really speaks well of our community as a whole, the way we want to support each other. So thank you to everybody who's participating in that. Okay, next, Councillor Shane McKinnon.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I actually wanted to ask Blake Poole a question, whether it's true that he operated the steam shovel that put those pipes in 1924. He may have signed off already. What I'd like to do is take a moment to mention the good work that the Northwest Health Unit has done under what to them really are warlike conditions. Throughout the province and here at home, public health has been prepared for COVID-19 in every way but the scale. And no one, except perhaps a science fiction writer, could anticipate the scale of this crisis or the far-reaching effects. The challenge now is not to give into COVID fatigue, but to stay vigilant, follow the Northwest Health Unit recommendations, some that will be coming out shortly, I understand, in order to keep our numbers low and our communities safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Martin McKinnon.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of quick comments. I fully support what you said on the strategic plan, having lived through 10 years of council now where strategic planning was never much of an issue because we just didn't do it very well. But this council has chose to have a strategic plan that is taking our community in many, many good places. And you see our work is never done, but it's improving every day, and it's all because we have a plan that is being enforced by our management team, and we're starting to live by that, and that's so important to this community. That is a huge step for this community that has just been taken on forming a working group to promote Indigenous relations in our community. That's another huge step. A lot of my work lately has been involved with the Kenora District Services Board, and they're dealing with massive social issues across our region. And a good strategic plan in our own community fits into that well, because we have to be able to support the Kenora District Services Board like we did tonight with their lobbying for development of housing. It all starts with housing. If people have a safe, secure place to live, then all kinds of other good things start to happen for them. So that's just my 2 cents, but thanks, Dryden. You're starting to look good. It's so busy, makes me feel good to go out in public.
All right. Thank you very much. And Councillor Bush.
Yes, just we've talked a fair bit tonight about reopening, and Councillor Shane McKinnon talked about COVID fatigue. And I'd just like to remind our citizens that the city is doing the best job that it can with respect to reopening, and we just ask for everybody's patience in terms of getting things reopened, and please respect your fellow citizens and respect the people that are working on your behalf in the city, and let's make sure that all of our reopening activities go well and go safely so that we can continue to reopen and be successful, unlike some other communities that we hear about in the news every day that don't respect COVID-19 anymore and end up in a bad place. So we're in control right now. So I just encourage everybody to let's stay in control and follow all the recommendations that come down from our health professionals as we go through reopening. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councillor Price.
Yes, just a few comments. Blake did bring up about the playground upgrades, and I happen to have one in my backyard, and he made it sound like it was not a big deal, but if you had seen the upgrade, you would probably disagree with him. They did an amazing job on it, and I just wanted to commend them on that, and I'm sure that the young ones will surely appreciate it when the time is there that they can go out and do so. Been once again very busy attending meetings and help in setting up the working circle, and I'm like I've said in the meeting, I'm very happy about that, and I'm extremely excited that all of council was on board with it. Like Councillor McKay had mentioned that it's not often that we all agree, but it's very obvious that this is a very important thing in our strat plan, and I'm glad that this is the one thing where we can come together and make the changes that need to be made. I'm still working toward weekly with PACE to review applications for funding to help the businesses that need help in surviving the COVID pandemic. There is still funding available, so any businesses that are listening tonight, please contact PACE here in Dryden and have a word with them, and maybe they can help you out in one way or another. I know there's plenty of funding out there right now. If you need help with funding when it comes to all of your cleaning supplies and all of the masks and everything like that, I believe there's a new one out for that. So give them a call and see if they can help you out. And other than that, everyone stay safe and healthy.
Thank you, Councillor Price. Councillor McKay.
Yes, I'd just like to kind of remind people and say that how fortunate we are to be living in an area that we've been very fortunate in not having a lot of cases of COVID-19 and just I guess stay safe and let's keep it that way. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Councillor Carlucci.
Thank you, Mayor Wilson. Just a few comments. One, in Northwest World today, I read exactly what you talked about in the strat plan, as we keep true to our mission, values, and vision statements, and we adjust strat plans if we need to down the road. So I'm good on commenting on that. Secondly, I'm glad to be back in Dryden. I was away for 3 weeks visiting my grandchildren, and driving through Ontario, we live in a pretty good community compared to others, and we're second to none. So very proud to be part of Dryden. Thirdly, incredible meeting, very positive tonight, and just to hear all the good things that we are doing. I just hope we keep that on for future. And lastly, just want to thank Judy Green. She was chair of our Police Services Board. She was appointed by the province in May of 2015. And the last couple of years, she's acted as chair. And due to her appointment ending, because that's the term of the provincial appointment, I go from co-chair to chair. So hopefully I can fill her shoes, and I know I will with some help. I have a great board, and at the end of the day, I'll keep council posted on what's going on, and I'll try and just need time to get my feet wet. Once I get that into place, I'll come back to you guys. So just so you're aware of that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Carlucci. Okay, we have acting clerk needs to get a move and a second on a confirmatory bylaw.
Okay, and just for those who may normally watch council, they may notice that the confirmatory bylaw has been moved out of consent agenda part 2. This just comes out of conversations and our belief that the confirmatory bylaw, which confirms all the proceedings at council, probably should come at the very end of the agenda rather than halfway through, when there's a whole bunch of stuff generally that happens after the bylaw consent agenda. So this is where confirmatory bylaw will live going forward as the second to last agenda item. So if I could have someone move and second tonight's confirmatory bylaw, that would be appreciated. Wow, Councillor Martin McKinnon, Councillor Carlucci, thank you. Moved by Councillor Martin McKinnon, seconded by Councillor Carlucci, that bylaw 4755-2020, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council, be read a first, second, and third time.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Carried.
Aye.
And adjournment. Someone to move, someone to second.
Someone to move and second, please.
I'll move.
Oh, Councillor Bush and Councillor Sheen got there first.
Nothing's going on.
They're the old guys in this too. They move pretty quick.
They're pretty fast. Moved by
I know.
Councilor
to go.
Bush, seconded by
Had to put my cane
Councilor
down.
Shane McKinnon, that this meeting do hereby adjourn. All in favor?
Good job, everyone.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.
Alligators.
All right, good night.
Have a good night, folks.
Good night.
Good night, folks.
Night.